Okay, well, welcome to this session. This is part of the Global Village Peace Forum series. Good morning to those of you who are in the East. I'm in Hong Kong myself, and good evening to those of you in the United States and other parts of the Western Hemisphere. So on behalf of the Special Interest Group 171 of AERA, welcome. You're very welcome to this meeting of the Global Village Peace Forum series. And this is part of pre-AERA events before our conference in Los Angeles. So we can have a bit of a virtual community to get to know each other better before the main conference, which, as you know, can be very busy time, very hard to connect with everyone you want to connect with. Feel free to give yourself an introduction as we start. Feel free to you can put in the chat where you're from and your name so we know who is here in the room. And I'll also introduce myself. So for those of you who don't know me, I'm Liz Jackson. I'm a professor in the Faculty of Education at the University of Hong Kong. So I've been in Hong Kong for 14 years. Before that, I was living in Abu Dhabi and South Africa, but I'm originally from the US. So I'm the program chair for this special interest group. So that's part of my role is running the program for the main AERA conference. But my research interest, I think a shared interest research we have in this community is being interested in East and West dialogues, global dialogues, mutual understanding. So those are things I'm very interested in. I'm interested in it from a philosophical view, but we have a very interdisciplinary forum here, a very cross-cultural forum here. Again, feel free to say hi by putting in the chat box your name and where you come from so we can get to know our audience and know who's here with us in the room today. So now I'll say just a little bit briefly about AERA in case you don't already know about AERA. So it's the main American Educational Research Association. So those of us who know the society well know that it's a very large gathering that happens annually. It's been going on for more than 100 years, focusing on all aspects of educational research. There's a focus historically and ongoing about education research in the United States, but we're part of a growing group of people interested in comparative and international perspectives and East meets West perspectives. So there's over 25,000 members of the AERA. So within the AERA, we have the special interest group called Confucianism, Taoism, Buddhism, and Education. And this special interest group was established in 2008 by Dr. Hong-Yu Wong from Oklahoma State University and Dr. Xin Li from California State University. It's a very interesting history, but basically there's not been a lot of attention to Eastern Chinese perspectives in the AERA organization. So that's part of the reason behind establishing this community. And this community, I think, is becoming increasingly important to people interested in learning from across cultures and appreciating and recognizing the diverse traditions, pluralistic traditions that exist all over the world, in the US, in China, and so on. So I would say Confucianism and Buddhism and Taoism, they're not just East Asian or Asian or Chinese or Eastern traditions because they're also global, just like Western traditions are global. So in that sense, AERA and our special interest group are quite global organizations, not just based in the United States. Our current board, we have Dr. Deng-Ting Boyanton, who is with us every week. She's working very hard to really establish this series, and she's done amazing work to establish a global community that we have here. As mentioned before, I'm the program chair for this SIG. And then we have Professor Jason Chong-Lin, who's the secretary and treasurer. He's also in Hong Kong, but he's at the Education University of Hong Kong. And we have Dr. Wenjun Guo, who is our communication chair, who's at the Xi'an University of Architecture and Technology. And I think Wenjun is also with us in the room today. So maybe she'll be chatting and participating as we're going through the session. So this virtual reception program has a purpose of connecting AERA conference presenters to connect with each other, to learn about each other's work, to create a community of scholars, and to encourage collaborations among scholars in researching and publishing. So this can look like a new conference presentation in the future. I'm the editor for the journal called Educational Philosophy and Theory. So sometimes we will have some special interest group. We'll have some special issue where we could have a number of journal articles related to our conference. I know there's also discussions about publishing books and other kinds of things based on what we're doing at AERA or creating new projects out of that. So all of that's possible the more we get to know each other and the more we get to know what each other's work is. And that's the whole purpose of this program. So we hope that through this one world and one family breakdown, we can have ongoing, meaningful conversations, understands complex issues and how different professors and scholars are situated intellectually related to these perspectives, to really understand today's educational context quite broadly. The Global Village Peace Forum lasts for 10 weeks from early January to April 12th. So that's sort of from the time the year's begun to AERA, with a total of 10 online forums and 5 in-person sessions in LA, which will be the culmination of the program. So the credit really is all for Deng Ting, because she's organized over 50 speakers from 39 universities and organizations from 7 countries: United States, China, England, Scotland, Korea, Vietnam, and Nepal. So that's quite an impressive project. We were discussing before, it's like a full-time job to organize this series. So I really am grateful to Deng Ting for the work that she's done. So let's move on to today's event. So today we have 2 speakers. So the agenda will be the speakers will have 30 to 40 minutes to present, and then there'll be some time for questions and answers before we close the event. So it's going to be pretty casual, and everyone should have the opportunity, I think, given the size of the group we have this today, to interact with the speaker, to raise questions, to pose comments and provocations, whatever you like to do. When it's time for Q&A, people can either raise their hand and speak up and go on the video, or they can ask their question with the chat box. So I think everyone has their mic muted for now. So just remember to unmute yourself and mute yourself when you are going to speak, because that can help us with the sound. So let's dive into the conversation. Today we have 2 guest speakers. We have Dr. Adrian Michael Blumenthal and Dr. Kerong Wu. So I'll tell you a little bit about each of them before we start. Dr. Adrian received his doctoral degree from University of Denver in curriculum and instruction. And for his dissertation research, he conducted a study cultivating dialogic feedback using Taoist principles to create clear stages of growth for educators. Dr. Blumenthal is passionate about education. He's been a teacher for 24 years. He's taught writing skills. He's worked in dual enrollment programs with local community colleges and mentoring peer teachers. In recent times, he's become more interested in developing expertise in Confucianism, Taoism, and Buddhism. And he's given some paper presentations in this special interest group in the past. And he's also co-authored papers as part of our special interest group. So we're very happy to have Dr. Blumenthal with us. So I guess we can all welcome Dr. Blumenthal. Our second speaker today, second presenter, is Dr. Kerong Wu, who is a language educator and education researcher with international experience in higher education, K-12 education, and policy research. Dr. Wu is a language educator and education researcher. She was a foreign language teacher at Sun Yat-sen University. She's taught Chinese in the United States, and she's worked as a research consultant for State Education Office. She currently conducts independent research and consulting focused on language assessment and cross-cultural education philosophy and practice. So welcome, Dr. Kerong Wu. So I think we can start with the presentation. So I will hand over to Dr. Adrian Blumenthal to get us started.
Thank you very much. Good morning, good evening to everybody out there. I'm going to share my screen and bring up our slides. Okay. The first thing that I'd like to talk about again is talking about AERA and what a great opportunity it was. This is how I became involved in the SIG was through AERA, meeting everyone. And last year it was hosted where I'm from now in Denver, Colorado, and that's where Dr. Kerong Wu and I met and actually began collaborating together on the presentation that we have today. And what we want to talk about today is infusing Confucian values into teacher evaluation and finding joy in our work. And the reason why we decided that this was such an important topic is because we've had so many deep and rich conversations throughout this series. But one of the questions that keeps coming up is what prevents the ideas from actually happening in both higher education and in K through 12 schools, which is where I work primarily now as an instructional coach, working to build relationships between administrative evaluators and teachers. So what we decided to do was look at exactly how those values come out and what is preventing them. So I'm going to begin the presentation today with talking about what is exactly preventing and what systems are in place from taking us back to those core values. And then Kerong is going to talk about how those Confucian values need to be, for lack of a better word, reinfused into the teacher education and the evaluation process. So when we look at education right now, we are very much at a crossroads. And if you look at the pictures below, on one side, we are living very much in systems, in mechanics, and evaluation systems that govern larger processes. But on the other side of the road, we know that it's the individual relationships, it's the communication between different teachers and different evaluators, just as it is between teachers and students, that really form the foundation of thought, that really drive our desire to not only just talk about values, but to feel those values ourselves. And we have to ask ourselves, which way are we moving? Right now, in US schools, we're very much moving into the mechanics of the evaluation process. But what was very interesting as I began research with this was to find that this was not just the US problem, not just a Western problem. The idea of what we're going to talk about called performativity exists in Japanese schools, Australian schools, Estonian schools, schools from around the world. So I want to kind of talk about where that exactly exists. As I said, the evaluation systems, the evaluation frameworks are favoring systems, rubrics, normalization of standardized practices versus individualized practices. But what's happening is, as we are going through this movement, we're missing that side effect on the teacher's approach to how they're creating ideas, how they're building relationships in their own practice, and how those teachers are being evaluated themselves. And what happens is it creates a very big conflict between teachers. On one side of it, there are these unattuned values that teachers are given by their institution, these values that are not being listened to. So on one side, I'm sorry, I misspoke. On one side, we have the performativity, and on the other side, we have these unattuned values that represents the individual teacher. their thoughts, their process, their experience is that guide their practice. So when these unattuned values meet with performativity, Scarrett calls this a developed value schizophrenia that happens with teachers, and teachers are not sure what governs their beliefs. Is it their own values? And what happens when those values come in conflict with the performativity of the institutions? So, what I want to talk about first is the actual definition of performativity. It is a culture that employs judgment through control and behavioral change. Performances are outputs that are displayed in different matters. The technical definition given to us by Stephen Ball is that performativity is a technology, a culture and a mode of regulation that employs judgments, comparisons, and displays as a means of incentive, control, attrition, and change based on rewards and sanctions, both materialistic and symbolic. The performance of individuals and organizations serves as measures of productivity or output or displays of quote unquote quality or quote unquote moments of promotion and inspection. As such, they stand for, encapsulate, or represent worth, quality, or value of an individual or organization within a field of judgment. And this is very important because we know it's out there, we know it exists, but what our research is trying to point to is how does this culture come about? Is there sequence to it? And where can we imbue those Confucian values with that? So what I've pointed out here is that there are four overall stages. And these four stages are: number one, the establishment of what's called a manager hero, which I'll discuss momentarily. Second, the setting of educational fabrications. And third, developing and enforcing a surveillance culture through what I call drive-by observations. And fourth, the erosion of personal values for corporate groupthink. And again, I just want to leave this up for just a moment. These four sequences: manager heroes, fabrications, surveillance culture through drive-by observations, and the erosion of personal values. The question that immediately comes from this is, well, it's teacher evaluation. We do work in educational programs. Don't some of these pieces have to be performative? And the answer to that is yes. There absolutely do have to be measures of performativity. There has to be some kind of evaluation of the teacher. But what is guiding that evaluation? Where is the teacher's voice in that evaluation? What conversations are taking place between teacher and evaluator? So again, going back to that list, what I want to first point out is the first sign of performativity is the rise of the manager hero. And the rise of the manager hero is for centralization and hierarchy. You'll see this in different schools and different institutions through lots of flowcharts, lots of explanations, flowcharts that demonstrate what person is in charge of which projects, what is the lineage of who controls who. For example, in a K through 12 US school, who is the principal? Who are the assistant principal? Who are the deans of instruction? Who are the department heads? And you'll see very top-heavy flowcharts that demonstrate this. And the point of the manager hero a lot of the times isn't that it's necessarily bad. It's not that the manager hero is trying to necessarily actively create control. But what happens is there is an unintentional, and in some cases, very much an intentional conflict that causes damage to teachers because those values that we all have in education are funneled through and funneled down from that manager hero to the individual teacher. And what happens is the intent to help teachers, the intent to help institutions becomes supplanted with the intention to lead. And we see a lot of institutions now, we see a lot of principals moving to corporate business trainings on how to be a leader versus how to instill values. And this becomes very important when we start looking at institutions and how individuals fit into that institution. Second, fabrications are, and I'm sorry, I'm just going to move this. I can't move this. Fabrications are versions of an organization or a person which do not exist. So, in other words, they are there to produce accountability. They are not lies, they are not falsehoods, but they are operational decisions made by an institution for the sake of having operations and decisions. Let me try to give you a more specific example here. A big trend in US schools over the last 5 years was in evaluations that teachers should have posted learning targets, posted essential questions, posted standards up on the board. And the idea behind it was that students are supposed to know what they are learning for that particular day. But what happens in this fabrication is that the research is incomplete about the effectiveness of whether that criteria is actually effective or not. And what happens instead is that evaluators, instead of looking at what's going on in the classroom, are looking to see if those standards are posted. And so what happens is that fabrication takes over and supplants what exactly the teacher is doing. And in that process, the teacher's voice, the teacher's thoughts, the teacher's values that they're trying to work with students on become diminished for what these fabrications are. The third part we have are what we call is what's called a surveillance culture through drive-by observations. These are observations where one person, one evaluator, or large groups of evaluators come in for 10 to 15 minutes, observe the classroom for 10 to 15 minutes, and then leave. And instead of seeing what's actually going on in the classroom, they are answering a checklist. Do I see this in the classroom? Do I see that in the classroom? What did I notice? What can I actually check? And in some cases, these observations are being used to calibrate the evaluation tool instead of seeing what's actually going on in the classroom. And as a result of this, this dehumanizes the teacher. This gives the message to the teacher that the criteria is more important than the classroom than what the teacher is actually doing. Those of you that have been classroom teachers could probably point to examples of this format. So between manager heroes, between fabrications, between surveillance culture, we see an ethical loss of self that is replaced by corporate groupthink. So, what is good for the school? What is the school trying to focus on? Instead of looking at how each individual contributes to the overall goal, we see instead what is the overall goal and how the teacher is fitting in there. And this causes a conflict because every person that's part of education, every person that forms relationships with their evaluators, with their peers, with their students, it's a natural dialogue. It's a constant moving of back and forth between them. And when that is not being prioritized, when that is not being seen for the mechanics of the actual evaluation, That's where it becomes problematic. So what Kerong and I wanted to do here was set up and have our audience understand exactly what is going on to prevent this and to prevent values going into the classroom and see what exactly what processes are preventing those values in teachers. And it is at this moment that the teacher begins to lose faith in the overall evaluation process. They begin to question, what do I do if I believe that this is correct, but it's not on the checklist? It's not what somebody's going to say. And then it creates a divide. Do I follow what I believe, what I think is to be right? Do I impart my values, or do I conform to what the evaluation says? And it is in that moment that the shift is moving towards the evaluation systems. And it's important to understand why here. So, what I'd like to do now is I'd like to ask Kerong specifically, how are we getting and gaining the Confucian values back into teacher education and back into the teacher evaluation process? So I'm going to turn it over here to Kerong.
Hi, I'm sorry, I cannot turn on the video. I'm outside, not at home. My internet is not good. But can you hear me? Okay, good. Sounds great. Okay, so kudos to Adrian. You've done so much work in this. Thank you. Wonderful work. Thank you. Um, I I've been working in China for many years, teaching English as a foreign language. And later I came to United States as an exchange scholar, teaching in the Confucius Institute, mainly teaching Chinese as a foreign language. And later I worked as a research consultant for a state office. All these various work really taught me a lot about the gap between theories or research findings and the reality, the evaluation reality, the teaching reality. And then you see, while I work for the state office, I found that the evaluation is mainly using students' standardized test scores. And everybody knows, like as educational researchers, we know education is such a complex thing, right? There's so many things at play, and students' progress surely cannot be just looking at their test scores. So some people asked about our our Confucius thoughts, using Confucius thoughts to support our research. And I would admit that this is not something new, like these ideas, Confucius thought ideas. Actually, it's not something new. It has been historically there for like over over 1,000 years. And these thoughts also have been echoed by some other world famous philosophers and educators, like Aristotle, like Dewey, like Montessori and Freire. And all these people, they have something, some element, that echoes just with Confucius. And I think those original texts from Confucius, like the purpose of education or how to achieve the purpose of education, all this basic stuff tells a lot about what we need to do for good education. like nowadays, I don't want to talk about other countries because recently I've been like working in the United States for over 10 years, I think. So I thought a lot about these educational problems, teaching and evaluation. I've been a teacher for so many years. I'm so passionate about we need to get evaluation right. And just look at those texts, like, the Confucius says, illuminates, illustrious virtue. So, and guides individuals toward the highest excellence. And all these things says that everybody, every student, every teacher, every individual, no matter what you do, no matter what your profession is, we have virtues, and we have those virtual potentials if we don't have them now. So it's the best. What the teacher needs to do is to bring out those potentials, right? To bring out those virtues. And some of the educators are doing this, are already starting to do this, to bring out the best potential of their students. But in the evaluation sector, we need to do the same. And at least I'm not aware of people are doing this. So we need to think, we need to lead people to think this way and to do this way. And these wisdom that's have already been there for thousands of years need to be used to inform us to have better education, better evaluation for the country, for the society. And I also learned, from the podcast that's about a very famous educator in China, Wei Shusheng, right? Is it? Yeah, I think it's Wei Shusheng. He was not like trained as a teacher educator, but he talked about Confucius principles, all these principles, like what I just talked, the aim of education, and also how to achieve the aim of education, and which is also in the Confucius principles, those 8 stuff like investigation of things, and get knowledge, have integrity, have settled, calm mind, and have cultivate moral example for people, and also rule the country, make the world a peaceful place. So all these stuff is really highlighting the methods we can achieve this. And the Wei Shusheng gave us examples, many examples about how to apply these Confucius ideas into daily education practice, like encouraging teachers, always show them the best things the good things they do, not pointing out their weaknesses. Teachers, like students, they need to know their virtues. They need to know their self-worth, and they can do better. Think about ourselves or our own experience, right? If you've been criticized by your parents, by your partners, then you don't feel the energy to move on. So we need to motivate teachers, letting them see their advantages. But when we do find they have weaknesses, we can guide them, provide individualized support and resources. And all these stuff we just found it's so valuable for us to, ponder and share with the leadership. Yeah. These, I really would like to know what you guys think, whether this is a very important thing for us to share and put them more into practice. Sounds good.
Great. Thank you. Yeah, we have just about 15 minutes left, and I think we want to do something for closing. So let's just open up for questions. Thank you so much for this really interesting presentation. I'm sure it's going to resonate with a lot of people here and their experiences. I could ask a few questions, but I want to open it up first to give everyone a chance to raise any questions they might have. So feel free to just go on the microphone or put a question in chat as you prefer. I guess I can raise one question to start. This interest in performativity is really fascinating to me, and I think both of you have actually touched on this issue. I think for me, I heard of performativity. I don't think I was in the US the first time I heard of performativity. I think I was in New Zealand or Australia or something like that. So both of you mentioned that this is like a global phenomenon, but will you say that there's certain cultures that, what do you think there's certain cultures that help to have this kind of negative mentality, or certain cultures which can help us to get out of this mentality from a global view?
That's a really excellent question. A lot of my research came across Australian and New Zealand schools as well. And I don't want to limit it so much to culture as much as I want to point to specific things that are existing within educational cultures. In a lot of high stake testing, this is where we begin to see the elements of performativity taking place, because the idea of high stake testing has begun to morph into the idea of the age old debate between growth and proficiency. So, what happens is in these cultures, and again, I would point to Australia, I would point to New Zealand, I would point to school systems in Japan, Estonia, Ireland, along with the US, and Stephen Ball pointed to Canadian and Great Britain as well, where some of these high stakes testing push schools into adopting more of a business model than looking at educational values. So what happens is, as Kerong pointed out, we have Confucius, we have Dewey, we have so many philosophers that are mentioned, but then, well, that's the philosophical side. We need to streamline, we need efficiency, we need to show and demonstrate these ideas of growth. And the problem is you can't point to growth. A lot of the times you can point to test scores, you can point to different things, but growth is the idea that growth is just this gradual line that moves, isn't the case. It's very peaks, it's very valleys, it moves back and forth. So that's where this conflict comes into place, the need to point to it versus the need of feeling it. I don't know if that answers your question, but I'll also ask Kerong if she wants to add anything on to what I've said.
Yeah, I think it's probably not a certain culture that promotes this practice, performativity. It's rather the educational system, the evaluation system. We've made it wrong. Like we set the targets wrong, the evaluation targets. For example, you set the targets as the students standardize the scores need to reach at this, and then these teachers get rewarded because their students have higher scores and you got them wrong. And then you lead them to the wrong way. And that's why they have performativity. So we need to change this. We need to really come back to the Confucius philosophy, like the purpose of education. We need to study this. What do they really mean? And all these other famous educators and philosophers, their ideas. What's the most important thing? It's bring out students or teachers' best potential. And if we can think about evaluation as these and think about how to, reconstruct our education system, that will be the key to solve the current issue. All these performativity, all these teacher attrition and the students problem, it's become so serious for these, education has been like developing for so many years, and people are not satisfied. We really need to have serious thinking. What's wrong? What can we learn from history, from cultures, from these Confucius principles? That's what I think.
Great, thank you. Other questions or comments? The floor is open. Wenjun, we can't hear you. For Wenjun and others, feel free to also type some question. Yeah, I see someone's entered a question, high emphasis on measurable outputs such as test scores. I don't know if you want to add anything to that comment.
I think that's Dr. Mong Liu, right? Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what's the question? Sorry, I cannot see it.
It's not a question, it's a comment, I think. Yeah. I guess I have some, I have many questions here, but I can just...
Yeah, I think...
Go ahead.
I think the comment I was making is also that it is performative. My camera may not be working, but it is the performability is not only for students, but also for the teachers, for the schools. So we have Gaokao in China. We have similar high-stake exams in the mental health. And I think that the challenges that we have fall into the trap of meritocracy, that these high performance or say high-stake exams are a way to create a system where meritocracy is valued. But we know that children come from different backgrounds, different financial settings, socioeconomic status. So they don't start from the same point. But it is a high-stakes exam. Just one exam can determine. I heard someone said in South Korea that what kind of job they will get later in life and who they will marry, because those entrance exams are so high stakes. In Bangladesh, I've seen they have implemented high stakes exam from grade 5, grade 8, and grade 10. So grade 5, a child is 10-year, 11-year, 12-year-old. If he or she makes a mistake, then she cannot go to the secondary school anymore. So these are some of the things that we need to consider when we create educational policies. Thank you. Great job.
Great, thank you for that. Thank you for that. What I might suggest, since we're kind of running a little low on time, we take, so that's a really excellent point, and then we take 2 more comments. So Wenjin ended up typing the question, in the age of AI, what's your take on evaluation in terms of performativity? And Deng Ting, did you want to also raise a question or comment? Go ahead.
Oh, okay. So for me, I actually have a lot of questions. This is I can definitely tell you two are both extremely passionate about this field, about this topic, and whatever measures, whatever matters. So even though we can be very passionate about this, but how they measure the teacher evaluation right now, the students' performance right now, that's what matters because they are driving the whole process of the education. So my real question or concern is it's going to be very hard to implement it. I mean, even if they buy it, they trust you guys. Okay, let's try. And they might not have the skills, might not have the knowledge. Another concern is if we approach them, so hey, this is the evaluation based on the Confucianism ideas. I'm not sure how how open they will be. It's like, huh? So I just wonder if you ever thought about how will you actually implement it in the actual school setting?
Thank you. That's such a great question. And actually, both the questions that what you just asked and what was in the chat, this was a lot of what my study was based on. And what I want to point to again first is those sequence stages: the manager hero, the fabrications, the surveillance culture, and the loss of ethical self. What my study set out to do was, how do we implement this? How can we get those values in there? And the key that I have found so far is to take those sequence steps and reverse the order. So the idea then becomes, start with the teacher's values. Find out what those values are. Again, we have evaluations that state goals. Well, what are the teacher's goals? What is it that they're setting out to do? Yes, we have high stakes testing. Yes, we have so many hurdles to overcome, but that is the true beauty of this profession, is that we have so many individuals from so many different cultures that care in so many different ways and have new things to offer. So if we begin the evaluation process there, we find out what those different values are, and we begin to build a bank of them. Medical doctors have different case studies, have different journals that they can go to. Lawyers have case law. Where is that bank in education? Where are those good practices that teachers have? And from there, what happens is, once we establish those values, then we take on the drive-by observations. Well, instead of making them 10 or 15 minutes, make them for longer periods of time. Have different peers, have different people observe for longer periods of time. And this, I think, speaks also to the question about AI. Well, with that, we find out what the teacher's values are. We find out what the evaluator's values are. We find out what the student's values are. And once those are being expressed, we don't need to depend on AI to generate them for us. Instead, we are speaking to them ourselves, because sometimes the term AI can be a misnomer. It's not really artificial intelligence, it's an algorithm. It's a series of algorithms that really speaks to and sets the limits at the same time. So plurality is the key to that question. From there, once we know what the teacher's values are, once we know that we can observe more, then the fabrications become erased by having a continued plurality of artifacts, different things that we can point to, not just the test scores, but actual teaching techniques that speak to those test scores, actual teaching that demonstrates the relationships and how they're built between teacher evaluator and teacher and student, which then erases the manager hero. And the manager hero is now somebody that is a collaborator, somebody that's involved in the process, and it doesn't have to trickle down. Instead, everything rises up. And I'm trying to give that answer as concisely as I can. I want to give Kerong a chance to answer, and I know we're running out of time.
Yes. Thank you.
Adrian, Adrian, you have a fantastic answer to this question. I agree. And while you are talking, I'm also thinking another thing I'm so excited about, like using AI. Maybe in the future, every teacher can be assigned an individual agent that will encourage them every day, lead them to think every day, what good things about their teaching today, like every day. And every day, this agent will lead them to think positively about themselves. And then, what other things that they think that they need help with, always encourage them to improve their emotional health, improve their self-worth. And these things can lead to happy teachers, happy students. This is a beginning to improve education in the AI age. This should be a big project, like we can all work on, get everybody involved. This is a big stuff. And also think about, okay, sorry, maybe I talked too much. I stop here.
How about just get rid of the evaluation and give it a different name? It called a constructive
Yes.
feedback or personal guide or a mentor or someone help you grow and motivate you rather than keep it judging you, motivating you, punish you. So
17, exactly. This is the future evaluation should go. Instead of be judgmental, to judge teachers, we just need somebody to encourage teachers to cheer on their success, to move on. And also, we've already, in some countries, in some places, they've already doing that. They removed evaluation on students. They do not have scores. In Finland, in somewhere, they've already started to do this. And United States is not, it's not working on this. So we need to spread the idea. Dante, you are so smart.
Thank you.
This is the future.
I know we're running out of time. I just want very quickly, Liz, I want to very quickly share my experience with my husband. My husband teaches at the university. I have my own positive psychology institute. And in my positive psychology institute, there is no evaluation. There is no final scores. There's no grades. They are the most motivated students ever. Some of them are here, okay? And they will listen to the recording again and again. They will review the notes. They want to cherish the notes. They don't want to lose it. And maybe when we get rid of the evaluation, true learning will happen.
Yes, exactly. And we need to transform the evaluator's role. We transform them into a helper, into a friend,
a mentor.
A guide, a supporter,
a cheerleader.
Yes. Yes.
I love it. Just kidding.
Yeah. These are great ideas. Don't laugh at it. It's going to be reality soon.
Yeah, I guess nobody likes evaluation, right? So.
Great. Well, I think we are running out of time. Deng Ting, do you want to help us wrap up the session?
Yeah. Do you have anything to say before I end?
No, just thanks to everyone for participating. Thank you again to our speakers. And these sessions are quite condensed, kind of teasers, I think. And then the hope is during the conference, these conversations can actually be extended, right? So if you want to continue the conversation, I think the program schedule's out now. So start making time on your calendar to get coffee with people before and after sessions to continue these conversations. So this is just the beginning. So thank you to Adrian and Kerong for their sharing. And we'll keep thinking and we'll keep learning together. So Deng Ting, do you want to close those up?
Yes. I just want to say thank you both very much. I really, truly, passionately believe you guys are doing very meaningful work, and it's very much needed. I think our education today is really moving in the wrong direction. So we need, wake up people and then, hey, what is just those simple questions? What is education? Why educate? for what kind of students, what kind of, capacities we want to develop, right? What kind of person we want to become. So, but when you ask that question, give me hope. Maybe AI can really make your type of evaluation happen. I also want to thank Liz for hosting, chairing this session. I know she's very busy, so thank you very much for your support. And thank everybody for being here. And all right, so just several quick announcements. Next week is going to be our 7th. Can you believe it? Yes. Okay, Florence, we've been doing this every week consistently. I want to thank everybody's support for this. Next week is going to be Wen Jing and Si Yuangong. You want to quickly share with everybody what we'll be talking about?
I'm not so sure if you can hear me. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Oh, finally.
You just want to
Thank you,
wait till the
Adrian. Thank you,
last
Kerong. I
minute.
just want to share that really quick. Thank you, Liz and Dante as well. We're going to talk about like Taoist perspective. Let's use a Taoist perspective to rethinking about, just like Adrian and Kerong there, like to rethink about how can we more like meaningfully incorporate cultural responsive pedagogy in our teaching practices to extending that into international higher education.
All right. It looks like very interesting. I'm really looking forward to it. All right. So
Thank
that's
you.
everybody. That's everything. This is all our AERA sessions. So if you do plan to attend AERA, please drop by and we'd love to see you again. So thank you, everybody. Thank you, everybody. See you next. That's everything. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Liz. Thank you, Tintin. Thank you, everyone.